Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Took a little break last week to figure out where I've been and where I'm going with my videos, and today marks the first episode of a brand new series, and we're going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects today, which is villains. I know that I have pet peeves, and a lot of writers that I've talked to have the same peeves about villains getting short shrift in movies and stories, and we're going to talk about how to grow your own foe and make them seem credible. I'm Robert Jones, and it's coming up today on The Story Detective. Some characters, like people, are born with a mission. Others develop it over time through a series of events. And your hero and villain, they're on a collision course because there's a prize to be had, and they both want the same prize. You can't have light without creating shadows, just as the shadows help to define the forms in light. Evil isn't really born, it's created, and it's created through circumstances. Are there exceptions? Sure. You could be writing a horror story or a science fiction story about a monster from Dimension X, and he's the darkest of creatures in the multiverse, but still, all that darkness has to have an equal and opposing side in the hero. If you don't have a strong hero and a strong villain, if both sides aren't represented, then the dance doesn't work. Because all stories at heart, even if it's a monster story, they're about human nature. The best, the most engaging combination of hero and villain comes from that single seed, that yin-yang that your story tree branches from. And they keep one another balanced. They give one another form and shape. But if you think of it as growing from that single seed, you have a cohesive whole for your story. Even the most cold and calculating being in the multiverse has someone or something that they care about more than themselves. In Avengers Infinity War, Thanos had Gamora. Whether you like the villain of Thanos in the movie, or whether you think it wasn't like the villain in the comic books, the writer still came at it with giving the villain something he cared about. He made his mission something that you could empathize with just a little bit. And that's another key factor, empathy. Empathizing with your villain helps to humanize them. If there's not one moment in your story where you can look at the villain and feel a little something for them, something that happened in their past, something in their character that makes you believe that they were once, maybe they had that seed that they could have been a better person. Something got shifted, something went drastically wrong in their lives. If you can feel something for the villain and you can empathize with their plight, then you've created a character that's humanized and therefore come across in your audience as being more realistic. In Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog, we have the rare opportunity of seeing the world through the villain's eyes, and the hero comes across as an arrogant, self-righteous high school bully. He even ends up stealing the villain's girlfriend, so we end up rooting for the villain instead of the hero. What you essentially have to do is become the villain's mother. You have to look at your villain through the eyes of a mother's love. Think of all the newscasts where a serial killer is found and the mother is like, "But Johnny was such a good boy." "Somebody led my beautiful boy astray." But remember, every villain was somebody's baby once. Somebody held that baby in their arms and believe that it was the hope of the world. What are some other common factors that the hero and the villain share? From the beginning, it's a different point of view, but it's a slightly different slant or skew on essentially the same things. The hero, we look at them as being single-minded, unwavering, and persistent. And we cheer them on when they have that single-minded goal because they seem very heroic. Their persistence also adds to their character, and their unwavering attitude is something that we feel we should all have in achieving our goals because that hero is an inspiration to us. Conversely, let's look at the villain. Villains are arrogant, egotistical, and unrelenting. Let's look at those factors from the hero and the villain side by side and think about that for a minute. It's almost the same qualities, but the slant differs. The point of view is skewed slightly, or radically. Both the hero and the villain tackle their goals, their wants, with the same enthusiasm of lifelong dreamers. Then they meet and become one another's greatest competition. So what are some important questions to ask about your villain when you're starting out? Or when you're looking at villains in terms of how to judge their credibility? What is your villain afraid of? Fear underlines so much of life and so much of fiction, because fiction is just an imitation of life. Somewhere along the line, your villain has encountered something like that. There's something that they're afraid of, even if they're not willing to admit it. There's something that they're hiding deep down that motivates much of what they do. What is his or her kryptonite? What is the thing that triggers their fear? What is the thing that makes them want to lash out? What is the thing that makes them sloppy or weak or could potentially be used against them? What are they hiding in their wallet? What are they hiding in their wall safe? What don't they want the rest of the world to know? There's always something. Who do they love more than themselves? Every villain has something or someone that they once cared about. Maybe that love is what triggered them into being bad. I recently started watching the TV show Once Upon a Time and quickly found the character of Rumpelstiltskin to be a credible villain. He took on his mantle of darkness to protect his son's life. Then there's the character Belle, who fell in love with him, and he pushes her away. Afterwards, he's made to feel he's responsible for her death, which only hardens his heart further. There are things that make him a credible character and a credible villain, and if not for those things, he's just another evil asshole who's walking around like a cardboard cutout. All of those first few questions culminate with the last one, and that's, could their cause be justified? There's a moment in there where their cause looks like it's a good one. They may be doing bad things with it, and you may be thinking, okay, this is heading for a disaster. But on some level, much like Thanos, again, getting back to that example, he believes that by destroying half of the universe, it's going to flourish because it's going to have to fight to build itself back up again. And he believes himself to be the hero because the end result justifies the means. Thanos, like many villains, has a plan, and his theory may seem justifiable to him or look good on paper, but in human nature there's always going to be somebody else that's going to step up and oppose that. There's going to be other thoughts, other greedy characters, other greedy people, or the hero that wants to stop him. There's always going to be that opposition, and there's the rub to what we're doing in life as well as in fiction. You need to create a justifiable thesis for your villain, but it's always flawed because it's about control. And you can't control everybody. You can't control what's in here. And your villain will always try and believe that it can be done, even if so many failed before them. There's always a better way, and they think that they have it. I have a recommendation for you guys today, and I figure if I discover something good, I'm going to share it with you guys. So today, in terms of our subject, I'm going to recommend The Emotional Wound Thesaurus by Angela Ackerman and Becca Puglisi. Now, I have no connection with these authors. They're not paying me to say any of this, but this is a discovery that I made that I thought was so cool that I wished I had thought of it. Because whether you're talking about a villain or a hero, if you understand their wound, you understand where they're coming from. I want to show you guys a bit of the table of contents. As a quick reference guide, this is pretty incredible. They have everything from crime and victimization, disability disfigurement, the list goes on. Failures and mistakes, injustice and hardships, misplaced trust and betrayals, specific childhood wounds, and each section within that heading is just a few pages. So you have a quick reference guide that you can refer to. And That's great for creating characters, and it's also really good for writer's block. If you're thinking, what happens to this character next? How can I make his life a little bit more tragic in the next scene? Well, you have an entire list of things that you could potentially draw from. Now, you can't go into a bookstore and buy this. It's a print-on-demand book. It's available through Amazon, and I'm going to leave the link down below. And these ladies have a whole series of books. Aside from the emotional wound, they have the same thing for setting, urban settings. There's a whole list of things that we could go down, but do yourself a favor and check them out for yourself, because this is, I think, an invaluable resource, and I think it's worth mentioning and worth taking a look at. If this video held some value for you, remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons below and ring the bell so that you'll be notified of my future uploads, because we're going to be going from the 101 to the 401 in terms of the villain's journey in this series. So next time, what we're going to cover are two big subjects for villains, which is the crazy and unprofilable types and the big evil that wants to take over the universe type. I'm going to try to fit them into one video, but depending on how depthy we get, it may be two separate videos. So I hope that you will come back and check those out. Until next time, keep those keyboards clacking.